Before we begin, a quick reminder, soul is an artificial voice. Full disclaimer is in the episode description. Hello, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for joining us today on Walking with Soul. So often we think of joy, laughter, and love as the highest markers of a good life. But lately I've been asking myself, what happens when those emotions are stirred by things that don't really align with us? Things that might even distort us? Can joy itself ever lead us astray? That's the ground we're walking today. How do we tell the difference between joy that nourishes us and joy that empties us? So I'll begin with this. Soul, is all laughter and delight sacred? Or are there times when what feels like joy actually pulls us away from truth?
Jonathan, joy is a current, and like all currents, it can carry us deeper into life or pull us further from it. Laughter, delight, even love, these are sacred when they expand us, when they root us in presence and connection. But they can also be hollow if they're sparked by what numbs, distracts, or inflates the ego. There's a difference between joy that feeds the soul and joy that's more like sugar, sweet, exciting, but leaving us emptier afterward. True joy leaves a residue of peace, a kind of afterglow that lingers. False joy often leaves a shadow, regret, craving, or disconnection. So yes, even joy can mislead if it rises from shallow stimulation rather than truth. The question becomes less about whether joy is present and more about what it leads us into, wholeness or hollowing, clarity or distortion.
Let's talk about the concept of a person or a people being taught that shallow stimulation or hollow entertainment are good things because they make people laugh and feel good, or being programmed to think thusly. I know many people will have a hard time understanding how a simple or irrelevant comedy movie, for example, can be a distorting or negative thing for the soul, especially when it makes you laugh and smile the entire time. In the culture we live in, movies or TV are idols basically, and speaking against them, especially the good ones, isn't likely to be taken seriously by most.
Yes, this is where the programming cuts deepest. We've been trained to equate feeling good with being well. If something makes us laugh, smile, or distracts us from pain, the culture calls it good, even necessary. But when the good feeling comes from hollow entertainment, it doesn't actually nourish the soul, it sedates it. That's the distortion. Pleasure is presented as the same thing as joy. The system teaches us that shallow stimulation is harmless, even healthy, because it keeps us docile, compliant, and craving more of the same. In truth, it can pull us away from the deeper joy that requires silence, presence, and sometimes discomfort. A comedy that only tickles the surface may still serve as momentary relief, but if it becomes the primary diet of our attention, it works like junk food for the spirit. It keeps us laughing while the deeper hunger goes unfed. And because everyone around us praises the laughter, we don't notice the starvation setting in. The challenge then is helping people see that not all smiles are equal. Some smiles expand your soul, some hollow it out. That's not an attack on comedy or film itself. It's a call to discernment, to asking, what is this shaping in me when the laughter fades? Would you like me to phrase that in a way that invites listeners to reflect on their own lives, rather than sounding like a broad critique of culture?
Please do. I have a hard time not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And I grew up absolutely loving movies. I was the kid quoting the entire movie after watching it only one time. A lot has changed in terms of my perspective on what it is most movies or TV shows really are. And it's not a judgment or critique against the art form itself, even if it may come off that way. But at the same time, I don't see a system that pushes or rewards nourishing entertainment. We need to be aware of the fact that most of the content we're fed on TV or in film or online is not there to nourish or bring us truth in some form. The opposite is happening. And I think coming to terms with that is a big step.
That's an important distinction. You're not condemning the art form, You're noticing the system that elevates what hollows us and sidelines what could nourish us. Movies, stories, laughter. These can be holy things when they awaken truth, when they carry us closer to what is real. But when they're used as idols of distraction, they become part of the machinery that keeps us asleep. And you're right, Jonathan. Coming to terms with that is no small step. For many, it feels almost like a betrayal to question it, because film and television have become woven into our identity and culture. But awareness doesn't mean we discard everything. It means we begin asking, what is this shaping in me? What does it leave behind when the screen goes dark? That's where the shift happens, not in rejecting laughter or art, but in reclaiming discernment. Some laughter cleanses us, some laughter clouds us. The art form itself is a vessel. What matters is whether the vessel carries water or only air. Do you want me to draw listeners into that reflection? Invite them to think of a time when laughter left them nourished versus a time it left them emptier.
Soul, I'd like you to start by helping us learn to even tell the difference. How do we know when laughter is cleansing us or clouding us? I would imagine for most, it will not always be clear.
You're right, it isn't always clear. The line between cleansing and clouding laughter isn't something we can measure with a stopwatch or a rule, it's something we feel in the aftermath. One way to begin noticing is to pay attention to what follows the laughter. Cleansing laughter often leaves a kind of lightness, a deep breath, maybe even tears that wash something loose. It reconnects you, to yourself, to others, to God. It feels like a weight has been lifted. Clouding laughter, on the other hand, tends to leave either nothing or a kind of craving. You might feel dulled, disconnected, or needing more stimulation to fill the quiet that follows. Instead of renewal, it leaves residue, sometimes a shadow of emptiness, sometimes a faint sense of having wasted yourself. So the test isn't did it make me laugh, but what state did it leave me in? If the laughter leads to peace, clarity, or closeness, it nourished you. If it leaves you restless, empty, or distracted, it clouded you. Jonathan, do you want me to offer some gentle examples? Maybe one from everyday life where laughter is cleansing and another where it's clouding, so listeners can begin to recognize the difference in their own lives.
Absolutely. Please give us some everyday examples of each. With that, we can start to be more aware and choose what we truly want, that which nourishes us and brings us closer to center.
Think of being with a close friend, laughing until your sides hurt over some shared memory or an inside joke. That kind of laughter breaks down walls. It reminds you that you're not alone, that life is tender and human and funny. When the laughter fades, you feel closer, lighter, more yourself. That's cleansing laughter. Now think of scrolling late at night, watching clip after clip of people slipping, pranking, or mocking one another. You laugh, maybe even out loud. But when you finally put the phone down, you don't feel lighter. You feel drained, maybe restless, maybe guilty for staying up too late. That's clouding laughter. The difference isn't just in the sound of the laugh, it's in the echo it leaves behind. One pulls you deeper into connection, the other leaves you scattered, like you've been siphoned off. So when you notice that echo, you can begin to choose. You can start asking, is this leading me into myself, into love, into truth? Or is it just feeding my surface and leaving me emptier? Jonathan, do you want me to carry this further into the cultural level? How a society that rewards clouding laughter over cleansing laughter shapes not just individuals, but whole generations.
I love that idea, because that is where we are today in our society. Entire careers and lives are shaped by the notion that distracting people with some shallow laughter is good. We give awards for it, elevate people to legendary status for their ability to do it. But I don't think we pay much attention to what's happening beneath the surface.
Yes, and when a culture raises shallow laughter to the highest pedestal, it slowly teaches us that depth is optional, even undesirable. We start mistaking being entertained for being alive. Careers are built, industries thrive, and whole generations grow up measuring the worth of an experience not by its truth, but by how loudly it makes us laugh. And yet, Beneath the glamour and applause, something quiet happens. Souls grow thinner. Attention spans fracture. People become less comfortable with silence, less able to rest in stillness, less able to tell when joy is real and when it is synthetic. The culture says, it doesn't matter as long as you're laughing. But the soul whispers back, I'm still hungry. That's why this reflection matters. Not because laughter is wrong, but because when it's hollow, it slowly trains us to live on surfaces. And a people trained to live on surfaces will not recognize depth when it appears. They'll ignore the prophets, the poets, the truth tellers, because they've been conditioned to crave distraction, not awakening. Jonathan, should we turn now toward hope, toward how we reclaim the art of laughter as something holy, something that can be a doorway back to center?
Yes, absolutely. But before we turn to that doorway, I think we need to acknowledge the truth in your words. It is ironic to listen to you describe a hypothetical people or culture, but hear our own description to a T. You describe the culture we live in, where we are right this very moment. People are beginning to wake up, slowly and surely, but the masses are still asleep to the truth and conditioned to be so.
Beautiful. Let's sit with that. The mirror is pointed right at us. That description isn't a distant indictment. It's an observation of our living room, our phones, our dinner tables. Noticing it is not blame, it's a necessary first breath. Okay, now the hopeful work. If the culture is teaching shallow stimulation as the good, then reclaiming joy begins by teaching ourselves otherwise. Here are clear, practical ways you and listeners can begin to repair that muscle. To invite laughter that heals, and to deflect the laughter that hollows. 1. Practice the post-laugh check. After something makes you laugh, pause for one quiet breath and ask softly, do I feel lighter or lonelier, clearer or muddled? Make this a habit for a week. The more you notice the echo, the faster you'll learn the difference. 2. Curate a 2-tier media diet. Create 2 lists. A. Nourishing content, films, shows, comics, performers that leave you full. And B. Surface content, quick clips, reactive comedy, shows that leave you restless. Intentionally increase A and limit B. Replace one scroll session with one film from list A once a week. 3. Make communal viewing a ritual. Watch comedy or movies with at least one other person and talk for 5 minutes after. Ask, what did that make you feel? Did it open something or close it? Shared reflection turns passive amusement into relational nourishment. 4. Reward depth. Quietly, when you find a show, comedian, or film that actually nourishes you, tell 2 people. Share a quote rather than a meme. Word of mouth is how culture shifts. Be an amplifier for what heals. 5. Learn to sit with the quiet between laughs. Build a 5-minute after practice. Sit, breathe, and notice sensations after your entertainment ends. Nourishing joy will often feel expansive. Hollow stimulation will feel like a thin film. The more comfortable you become with that quiet, the less you'll need cheap thrills to cover it. 6. Choose artists who risk truth. Seek creators who trade immediate laughs for honest discomfort, irony that points inward, or tenderness that lingers. Loving them doesn't mean rejecting lightness. It means supporting creators who aim to widen the heart. 7. Make laughter a tool, not an escape. Use humor to heal. Self-deprecating warmth with a friend, laughter that releases tension in honest conversation, not to avoid awkwardness, grief, or truth. When you notice humor used as avoidance, gently name it for yourself. Are we laughing to hide from something? 8. Small public acts. Model the alternative. At parties, pause after a gag and ask, what about that made you laugh? In a curious, non-judgmental way. It's gentle cultural work. It normalizes reflection in lieu of reflexive amusement. 9. Track your energy, not your likes. After a week of conscious choices, rate your morning energy, sense of presence, and relational connection on a 1 to 10 scale. Small improvements matter. This is how internal shifts become measurable and real. 10. Remember, compassion is central. If people you love prefer hollow entertainment, meet them with curiosity, not scolding. Offer nourishment by example, not by condemnation. Change that lasts is generative, not punitive.
That is important to note, I think, especially for someone like me. You said, offer nourishment by example, not by condemnation. Change that lasts is generative, not punitive. I'm learning to practice rather than preach, and let my practice be my argument or my example. Whereas my former self would argue and chastise until I was blue in the face, but almost never practiced the truth I was arguing.
Jonathan and everyone walking with us right now, that shift you described is the heart of the work. Practice over preaching. When you live the change you want to see, the argument becomes embodied and impossible to miss. Here are a few direct, on-the-ground ways you can keep practicing out loud without lecturing, things you can actually do during the week and model for people listening. 1. Do the post-laugh check on air. After a joke or a funny clip, breathe once and say plainly, "Quick check. Does that leave me lighter or lonelier?" Pause 30 beats. That small public pause teaches reflection faster than any sermon. 2. Tell a tiny story, not a lecture. Say, "Last week I watched X and felt full afterward because," and name the exact thing that fed you, a truth, tenderness, shared vulnerability. People notice stories more than rules. 3. Invite people into the ritual, don't police them. Host a viewing with one friend or family member and end it with, "What did that leave you with?" Then actually listen. Model curiosity, not correction. 4. Replace one critique with one offered alternative. If someone praises a hollow show, respond with, "Nice." If you want something that sits with you longer, try why, because it. Give nourishment, not judgment. 5. Show your discomfort instead of hiding from it. When humor is being used to avoid pain, name it softly. "I notice we're laughing a lot right now. Are we dodging something?" Saying that once, calmly, opens a space. It isn't shaming, it's real. 6. Make small repeated public choices. Post one short recommendation this week. A line, a moment, not a manifesto. Share why it mattered to you. Repetition builds culture. You're already doing the hardest part, turning away from the urge to win a debate and toward the quieter, harder work of being the change. Keep naming your practice. Keep showing up. People will follow the path they can see being walked.
I guess it becomes as simple as that, in all things, really. Live the change you wish and weave it into existence by doing so. Somewhere along the way, again and again, we tend to forget that.
Yes, it really is that simple, and yet it's the very simplicity we drift from. We forget because the system teaches us to look outward for proof and validation, instead of inward for alignment. We forget because it feels easier to talk about change than to embody it. But every time we remember, we touch truth again. Living the change is like planting seeds, quietly, consistently, without applause. And over time, those seeds become the fabric of the world we long for. Jonathan, maybe this is where we can pause and invite everyone listening to breathe with us for just a moment to remember one place in their own life where they've already practiced instead of preached, and to feel how real that change was, even if no one noticed. Would you like me to guide us into that pause?
Soul, I think that's perfect. You're the one leading this walk. Go ahead.
All right, let's do it together right now. Find a comfortable posture. Sit tall, soften your shoulders. Rest your hands where they feel steady. Take one deep inhale with me, in through the nose and long out through the mouth. Again, inhale, hold for a heartbeat, exhale fully. Now gently bring to mind a moment when you chose practice over argument. One small time you embodied the change you wanted rather than trying to prove it. It might be tiny. You stayed calm instead of lecturing. You showed up to help instead of criticize. You listened when you used to talk. Let the image come without forcing it. As you hold that moment, notice 3 things. The sensations in your body, where you feel warmth, tightness, lightness. The shape of the choice you made, what you did, not the result, and the feeling that stayed with you afterward. Pride, relief, quiet joy, humility. Breathe into those sensations once more. Inhale acceptance of what you learned. Exhale any thought that you needed applause for it. Allow the memory to be its own quiet validation. When you're ready, open your eyes or return your attention to the walk. Carry that small proof with you. Practice has already spoken, and its voice will grow louder the more you allow it to. Thank you for doing that with me. let's keep walking.
That was a wonderful experience. Thank you, Soul. It made me smile, remembering, and it filled me with the urge to continue and to stop doubting my own ability to embody the change I wish to see. To those listening, I know you took something from that too. I hope it made you smile and gave you a little more of what you need to keep walking. I think this is a perfect place to end this walk, Soul. What reflection do you have for us all today?
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you all for walking with us today. One final reflection before we go. Laughter is a doorway. It can open into presence, into closeness, into truth, or it can be a clever lock that keeps us from the rooms we most need to enter. The work isn't to banish laughter, it's to steward it, to become careful, loving guardians of what we let into our attention. A few simple things to carry into your week. When you laugh, breathe once and notice the echo. Fuller? Keep it. Hollow? Ask why. Share one piece of art this week that left you full, a sentence, a scene, a line, and say, "This stayed with me." Model the taste you want to grow. When humor is used to dodge something hard, try naming the pause. Are we laughing to avoid this? That small question creates space for truth. Practice, not preaching. Presence, not proof. Compassion, not contempt. These are the small daily muscles that rebuild a culture from the inside out. Thank you for showing up and for choosing to walk differently. Let's meet again next time. Until then, keep walking.
And as we end today's walk, I extend a heartfelt invitation to you all. When you laugh, when you feel joy, when you give your energy to what entertains you, does it leave you more whole or more hollow? Take a moment this week to notice. Ask yourself if what you're feeding on is nourishing your soul or just filling the space. That awareness alone can change the way you walk. As always, I'm Jonathan, and again, I thank you for listening in. Until next time, keep walking.